This is Midday Sunday. Our guest today is Jamie Court. He is from Consumer Watchdog, consumerwatchdog.org. We had an opportunity to ask Western States Petroleum if they would like to respond, and this is the response we got. As soon as we bring that up on screen, I'll read it for you here. It's well, as one would expect, they are critical of Consumer Watchdog and all that you're doing. And that'll come up here soon, in just a moment here. While we're waiting for that to come up, there was one point you wanted to add.
Well, I mean, look, they've been making a lot of profits, and they've been in their profit reports talking about how the low inventories and the refinery outages are helping them so much on the West Coast. But one of the things that we hadn't talked about is the politics, because we are on the verge of passing even greater restrictions on greenhouse gases in California. This is a bill that's going to come out of the Senate. The governor is going to pass it, and the Western States Petroleum Association has been on the warpath against it politically. But in November, a memo came out saying they wanted to make the case that the greenhouse gas controls were going to raise gas prices 75 cents. Well, I believe one of the reasons we're seeing the punishing of California right now is not only because it's very profitable, but also because they're punishing California for having really tough environmental rules. They don't translate to higher gas costs, but they make us a punching bag for the oil refiners.
Your choice of words is intriguing to me. They're punishing us.
They are punishing us because we're paying $1.20 more than the rest of the nation, and they're taking home $1.20 every gallon when they usually take home 45 cents, the refiners. They're punishing us, and they're punishing us, I think, because it's profitable, but also because politically it works for them when they're fighting our environmental rules.
All right, have we got the statement from Western States Petroleum? We do not have that. All right, they'll work on that because we need to include that. Let's move on to the right to be forgotten. The right to be forgotten, we've got a photograph, if we can bring that up. There she is, Kiki.
Yeah, Katsaros.
Or Nikki, I should say.
Katsaros, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what her family called her. She died in a tragic car accident and was decapitated, and the CHP inadvertently put on the internet that picture of that horrid crash. So if you put her family name in, her name, her parents' name, on a Google search or a Bing search, the first thing that comes up is this tragic picture of an accident. Yeah. The family has wanted it removed from the internet. Google has refused, Bing's refused, the search engines refuse. And in Europe, they do have the right to take off from the internet information that's either inaccurate or old and outdated, or something like this that's rather offensive and hurtful and doesn't really serve a historical purpose.
What's Google and Bing and all the rest of them, what's their reason for continuing to make this stuff available?
Well, they believe it's an algorithm, and this is something that other people have seen before and they want to continue to see, so they're feeding a popular appetite for it. And when they feed that popular appetite, of course, there are ads that come that they get paid for on the side of that search. Yeah. But the right to be forgotten was established by a European Union as a court, as a way of saying, look, there are certain things in our past that go back 25 years, there are certain outdated pieces of information that we should be able to petition Google and say, hey, we want this taken off. The Katsaros family picture in Europe would not be on the internet. 40% of the requests to Google, which is 98% of the search business, are taken seriously. 40% of the requests under this new standard are removed. But in America, we don't have that right to have something that's outdated or hurts our reputation removed. Another good example is a teacher was fired because of a rather risque photo of her years ago that some of her students had Googled. These types of photos, maybe they should exist, but they should be associated with your name forever when you do a search, or should you have a right to be forgotten? So we've petitioned Consumer Watchdog, the Federal Trade Commission, to ask for the same right to be forgotten in America that we have in Europe, and to ask Google to take down these types of search results that are not about public figures. They're not about you or me. They're not about people that the Western States Petroleum Association or Google would like to find out more about, which I think is reasonable. These are about private families who want to keep certain photos that should have never been their private.
And your allegation is that the search engines are doing, the search engine companies are doing this for profit.
Well, that's why they have a search engine. They're doing it because these search terms come up and they want to make all this information universal, and then people use their search engine. And the more they use their search engine, the more ads that appear that they get paid for. I don't know why Google's resisting specifically on a Katsaros family request, because this is a really blatant example. I think it's because they don't want to establish a precedent. They don't want to say, if I do it for the Katsouris, I'm going to do it for someone else. But that's why we need the Federal Trade Commission to say, look, Google says it protects your privacy. Google has a whole host of statements about how consumer-friendly it is. It lets certain things be removed if something is violating a copyright or a trademark. So if that's the case, then we should have a standard in America. Otherwise, Google is being deceptive and misleading when it makes those representations to the public. So we're asking the Federal Trade Commission to step in.
But what about the catch-all response to this, which could be, among others, the public has a right to know?
Well, the public does have a right to know, particularly about public figures, particularly about historical information. But if something's inaccurate or anachronistic or just plain offensive and hurtful, there is a line that needs to be drawn. People say this is censorship. The difference is between censorship and the right to be forgotten is the government is the one censoring information in a censorship situation. Here, we have a commercial enterprise making money off images and information that can do harm to people and isn't part of necessarily a historical record or a journalistic purpose. So this isn't about the government. This is about whether we have a right to petition a business to protect our privacy and our family and our name and our reputation.
Yeah. You know what, why don't we take a break and regroup ourselves on some of the other technical issues, and when we come back, we'll continue.
Okay.
Good enough? Stay with us, please.